Welcome to another episode of Metal Mastermind. Today I'm gonna show you 5 ways you can edit your guitar tracks in your studio. Now the purpose of this video is just to share with you some different things that you can do with your recorded guitar track. Once you record that track, it's in your DAW, it's sitting in that track there, but you may not like some parts of it, or you may want to change some parts of it without having to re-record it. So this video is going to help you do those things, and you're going to just see some of the little magical things you can do to your track after it's recorded. Now make sure you hang around to the end of the video. We've got some more guitar recording tips I want to share with you as well. First things first, let's just put in a dummy drum track. So we're just going to use Easy Drummer for this example. TuneTrack's Easy Drummer, and I'm just going to move in just a sample drum loop here so we can record a guitar track to that. Now let's record our initial guitar track so we have something to work with. All right, so we've got our track recorded here, our guitar track to work with. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you guys is just a very simple edit, and that's going to be just the volume of the track. So if we go down here, of course, we've got a volume slider. I've got it set to 0 right now, and of course, we can decrease and increase the volume there like that, however we want. However, this is something that you may or may not be aware of. The actual track itself, the actual signal, the guitar that you recorded, if you look over here, I've got this little line, and most DAWs operate similar to this. I'm in PreSonus Studio One here, but you'll see this. I can actually adjust the volume of the track here as well, right? The actual signal itself, the recorded guitar, without adjusting the actual track, right? So it's kind of just another function that you have. Like let's say for example, you recorded the guitar a little lower than you should have. Let's say it was like down here looking like that. That's a little thin. So instead of re-recording the track, I might just want to boost that up a little bit, right? So I can take this function here and change the volume of the actual track here instead of the track volume. And what that does, it gives me a little bit more room on the actual track volume down here, the input volume here. So that's just another way that you can play around with the volume to lower or raise it. The second thing you can do to an already recorded track, and this is going to be very common for you to do, is you can cut certain parts of the track. So right away, we've got this empty space in the beginning, and that's when I just pressed the record button because I was recording with a real amp. But you're always going to have that empty space in the beginning. So you've got a cut feature here, and again, most DAWs are going to work the same way. Just look for the cut function. You see this little knife up here in Studio One that I'm looking at. I can click that, and that allows me to just cut wherever I want. So I can cut right here if I want to. Then I can change my feature back to the non-knife, to the pointer, click that first part, and I can just get rid of that altogether. Now, real quick though, let me reverse those changes I just made. So we're back to the track here, right? So what if I cut by accident? What if I cut too much of this off? You're like, oh no, man, I just cut the head of the track off. Well, real easy. Even if I just delete this first part here, now I don't have that track. I can just take the edge of that track, and again, most DAWs work the same here, and I can drag that back out here. Now, let me reverse those changes. I want to show you one more thing, okay? Back to the normal track here with no edits. If you want to cut, right, you don't actually have to use that cut function. You can do what we just did. You can take the end of that track and you can just drag it like this. So I do that most of the time personally when I'm working with the edges there. Now, if I'm working with something in the middle of the track, let's say we've got a middle of the track that we just want to get rid of or do something with, whatever the case is. So you can go back to the cut feature here, and you just put this anywhere in the track. Let's say I want to cut it right here, okay? And we just get rid of that last half of the track. Oh, I got rid of too much. Well, we can just drag it however you want. So that just kind of unlocks some other features and things that you can do with that track with the cut function. All right, number 3, we're going to talk about the fade function. I don't know if this is what it's called, but we're just going to call it that. So at the end of this track, and we're going to listen to this real quick, you'll notice I kind of just let that note hang a little bit. I think it did something with a whammy or whatever. So let's just listen to that real quick. So what if I don't want all of that in there? What if I just want it to kind of like, fade out instead of, having the whammy or whatever? Well, here's what you can do. So first of all, I'm going to use our cut function, and I'm going to shave off that last dead spot there. Now remember, let me reverse that. Instead of the cutting, I could just drag the track. Remember, when I'm working with the ends, I use the drag feature more than anything. Cuts, really, I'll use that when I'm wanting to do something in the middle of the track, okay? So we've got this last half of the track. Here's a feature, and again, most DAWs are the same. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go to this top corner of the track here, this upper right corner, and I'm just going to move that, okay? You can see I'm not moving the entire track. You see what I'm doing here? I'll move it to the end there where the drum stops, okay, that last drum beat is. So I've got this fade feature now. This, in theory, should fade because this is the volume that we're dealing with here. You see how it's going down now. So let's listen to that and let's see how that sounds. Pretty cool. Now, what if I want to fade that a little bit faster, but without cutting the entire end off? So what I can do here is, see, we've got this straight line for the fade. Well, I can take the middle of that and I can just kind of drag that down a little bit. So now it's a curved. So it's going to fade out a little sooner, but not cut it off entirely. So let's see what that sounds like. You should hear the fade a little bit sooner. So that's another really cool feature you can do for your outros when you're ending a song. If you don't want a button ending and you just want that fade, or if you've got a part in the song where maybe it's like a bridge coming up but the guitars fade out and you've got a bass solo or something else is going on. So that's just a really cool feature that you can use and edit your track with. Now we get to one of the most grand features in recording music these days, and that's adding effects to your guitar track. This is an awesome way to edit your guitar track. So we recorded this with a real amp, by the way. Recorded this with an EVH 5153 amps, the EL34 tube version. I had the 212 matching cabinet mic'd up with a Shure SM57, so that's how we captured this track here. Now, that was pretty much a dry track. I want to add some effects to it. One of the first things that you're going to do to a guitar track that's recorded with a real amp is going to be to add a compressor, because you want to compress that signal, and possibly an EQ. So I'm going to go down here, and I've actually already got a preset effect for that. I've got a compressor for an EQ for guitars. Now, we've actually got another video on this on guitar production here on Metal Mastermind channel, and I'll put the link to that up there if you want to go check that out. So now we've got a compressor and EQ, so you probably won't be able to tell the difference out there, but I can certainly tell the difference in here. All right, so I actually had to bring the volume of the track up a little bit because once I compressed that signal, the volume sort of dropped a little, right? Because you're evening out those, you're evening out that entire track. You're cutting the peaks and raising up the valleys, so to speak. Now, that's not the only effects. What if you want to add maybe a little reverb to that track? So this is just another, again, really nice, simple way that you can add more to your track. So let's just throw in, let's look for effects. Let's just throw in a reverb. Sometimes I like a little reverb on my guitar tracks. So I'll go into the studio here. I'll find I've got a room reverb. I'll just drag that over here to the end of the chain. and voila, my reverb comes up. So now I've got reverb on that track now. And of course, the beauty of using plugins in your studio is you can make all kinds of adjustments here. If you want a big reverb sound, or if you just want just a tiny bit of reverb, sometimes for metal, you might not want that much reverb because you want that to be a very tight guitar track. But the option is there. So adding effects, again, is a really awesome way to edit your guitar tracks to make them sound better. Now, this fifth way of editing your guitar tracks, this is one of the most awesome things I can show you in this tutorial here. You're gonna love this, okay? So we're gonna talk about panning your guitar tracks, but before we do that, I actually need to record one more guitar track to show you how this works. So let's do that first. All right, so we've got our second guitar track recorded here. We're gonna go down here to the tracks themselves, all right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the very first track that we recorded and I'm gonna move that little slider here all the way to the left. So that's track number 1, okay? Now, the second track that we just recorded, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to take that little bar, the little pan bar there, and again, this will look different, you know, more than likely in different DAWs, depending on what DAW you're using. Just find out where your panning function is, though. Move that first track all the way to the left. We're now going to pan the second track all the way to the right. So what we have now, instead of hearing two guitars directly up the middle, we're going to hear those guitars panned. And this is going to result in a much fuller mix. So let me let you hear what this sounds like. I'll give you the actual recorded signal here so you'll really hear it, okay? Let's hear that. All right, so that was pretty cool. Now, let me just back up 1 second here, and I want to show you how I normally record it when I'm going to pan guitars like this. So what I'll oftentimes do, and I just did it the other way for the purpose of the video to show you, right? But what I often do is I'll record that first guitar track, and that's the guitar track. Before I record the second guitar track, I will pan the first guitar track to the left after I record it. And I'll go ahead and pan that second guitar track as well all the way to the right. So this way, when I'm recording the guitar track with headphones, I'll hear the guitar I've already recorded in that appropriate ear, and then I'll hear the new guitar track I'm recording in the other ear. So this helps you record and just helps you stay in time a little bit better, as opposed to just leaving both tracks up the middle. So I'll actually do the panning process before I record that second guitar track. All right, so that is 5 ways you can edit your guitar tracks, and also we went a little deeper into the recording process. Now, I told you I'd give you some more guitar recording tips at the end of this video. So one thing I want to stress, especially when you're recording with a real live amp. I know a lot of you use plugins, and that's okay too. You can actually apply this process here to using plugins as well, everything we went over. But when you're recording with a live amp, because I know some of you like to go that route, and hey, it's just fun to record with a live amp. Well, I want you to make sure that you're getting the cleanest signal possible going in. And one way to do that is to not use a lot of effects or any effects at all. Really all you need when you're recording with a real amp is a noise gate if you're playing through a high gain amp, because obviously you don't want to pick up that noise in the mic there. But as far as effects like delays and reverbs and all that stuff, I highly encourage you not to use any of that when you're recording your live amp, because as you saw just now, that's one of the editing features that we can perform on those tracks after you record them. Because if you record it going in with delay or reverb and you don't like it, well, you're either stuck with it or you have to redo it. And we've actually got another video going into that as well. So make sure you're recording with the cleanest signal possible going in, and then perform all your editing after the fact. That's just going to help you and save you a lot of stress in the studio. And again, you can use these same 5 editing features using plugins as well, virtual amp sims and that sort of thing, and actually those give you a little bit more flexibility. So on that note, also I want to make sure you download your free home studio guide that we have. There's a link in the description of this video, so grab your copy of that if you don't have it already. Guys, thanks for watching this video. Please give us a thumbs up. Metal Mastermind is all about helping metal musicians, especially when it comes to studio and production, and just giving you tips to help you progress further. So thank you again for watching our channel, and we'll see you on the next video.